Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, September the 8th, 2021, and there is quite a bit in the news today, actually, so let's jump right into it. So, first off, I just wanted to say that there's been, out of nowhere, an unexpected, what seemed to be tornado or very intense weather storm within southern Ontario, which is very close to the city of Toronto within Canada and the province of Ontario. I bring this up because, the timing of the way in which we saw, for example, the Project Veritas leak many months ago about how that CNN producer said the next big thing after Trump is, when Trump is out, is going to be climate change and all that. I can't help but think, honestly, I don't mean to start this news episode off with a conspiratorial proposal, but again, I can't help but think they can control all of this, controlling the weather, or at least to some extent, and that these anomalistic occurrences may in fact be a form of justification to try and help the planet, which I'm all for, presuming it's under a good principle and presumption intention, which again is hard to say. So the next thing is that Joe Rogan suggested suing CNN on his recent podcast. Go for it. Why not? Do it. I know exactly, because again, he's kind of, I know he suggested it, he was joking about it, but he's got the money, he's got the publicity to do it. If you want my opinion, I'm pretty sure people like Elon Musk and all that will back him. And again, it only puts the masses against the mainstream media even more, particularly CNN. And CNN's been known, especially in the West, to be sort of the one that everyone rips on and makes fun of. And again, that's partly why they have such a brand name, and it's not always a good thing, right? The next thing is that the CIA is looking to showcase a softer side via social media and considers creating an account on the Chinese-owned platform TikTok in an attempt to reach Gen Zers or Gen Zers. Softer side meaning like the woke thing? Okay. If they're having that much trouble recruiting people, that's because, putting the woke thing aside, I would dare to argue that people like myself and others are seeing what the CIA is all about, unfortunately. Again, I'm sure there's a few operations in there that have protected American lives and things like that. However, to what extent did those operations occur relative to the amount of coups they conducted and all that BS, right? Again, a former CIA agent by the name of Andrew Bustamante, I say his name because he's public now, on Reddit, he answers all these questions, and he goes, someone asked him in this Reddit question and answer, how do you know to trust or believe the CIA and things they say? How do you know what's true and what's not? He goes, you don't, that's why I left. Good point, right? So, the next thing is that officials in Ottawa are seeking to permanently block Chelsea Manning from entering Canada. So Ottawa is the capital of Canada at a federal political level. This is a decade after she revealed U.S. state secrets about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. You see, again, this is what I mean about the U.S. coughs, Canada sneezes. Good chance we're going to follow along with whatever. Again, I say you guys because many of you that watch and listen are Americans. So, but in general, America coughs, Canada sneezes. There's nothing more to it than that. I mean, what's going on in America now with climate change, protests, anti-vax, all these different things. It's all happening here too, folks. At a smaller level because we have far less population, but it's happening. The next thing is that the Robert E. Lee statue, which was erected in 1890 and the largest Confederate monument in the U.S., is removed in Richmond as the crowd fanatically cheers the moment. Look, my opinion on Mr. Lee is this. I understand why people may like the Confederate flag because to them it represents the South. However, I do want to say as well that if this Robert Lee E. statue, if this gentleman, not the statue, sorry, if this gentleman when he was alive didn't do anything good, right? At this point, I'm really trying to put Republican, Democrat, I'm really trying to put that aside. Again, if his whole thing, and again, I don't know his history, so I'm not pretending to know, but if his whole claim to fame historically was, the leading the Confederacy and the slaves and all that stuff, then in my opinion, just take it down, right? Again, it's a very strong debate to be had, especially in the South, but again, it conflates culture and racism. It kind of conflates, and that's where the issue lies, right? Again, folks, don't mean to sound one way or the other. I'm just trying to play this down the middle when I report it. The next thing is that philosopher Peter Boghossian today resigned from his teaching post at Portland State University because, and I quote, he says, students are not being taught to think. Rather, they are being trained to mimic the moral certainty of ideologues or ideologies, end quote. That's what Jordan Peterson's been saying quite frantically for a few years now, at least in my opinion. So at this point, I would dare to say he has the right to do this. And again, this won't be covered by the mainstream media, ironically enough. Yes, he has the freedom to speak, but, if it's not within a certain narrative, they're not going to write about it. And if they are, they're going to attack it or try to use evidence to provide to the contrary of his statements, right, or his opinions. The next thing is that the handover of power in Afghanistan to the Taliban is a, quote, satanic plot, end quote, by the U.S. and the West that will affect all countries in the region, says former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in an interview with WION. I think he might be implying that they wanted this to happen. The CIA wanted this to be, pardon my English, a clusterfuck. So you know what? I'm inclined to agree with him in this case. That doesn't mean I agree with the way he conducts his politics, but, you know, in this particular circumstance, I wouldn't rule it out, to be fair with you folks, if you want my opinion. The next thing is that electricity prices hitting new all-time records in the UK and Spain amid low wind generation, high gas and CO2 emissions allowance prices. Okay, I mean, look, prices are going up, but again, we can argue, look, free energy would solve all of this. I'm not even going to get into this all over again. 0 point tech, free energy would solve all of this. So you folk, most of you folks, I think, know where I stand on this. Anyways, the next thing is that Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos is reportedly one of the investors in new startup Altos Labs, a project that is researching the reprogramming of human genes to reverse aging. Well, again, if you take a look, for example, at what Ghislaine Maxwell told some reporters off the record, in a handful of years before Epstein died and she got arrested, she said that, Jeffrey Epstein was going to flying around the world trying to find ways to either reverse aging or preserve his brain. These elites, they have so much money, they got nothing to do with their lives. This is what they do. It's pretty simple. I think the tech is there. I just think that not that many elites are let in on that tech, if you want my opinion. The next thing is that the SEC, oh, this is a good one. The SEC threatened to sue cryptocurrency exchange platform COINBASE over a program that would allow users to earn interest by lending crypto assets. Face value? Simple. SEC can't regulate it or control it, so they're going to sue. Perfect. Let them sue. I hope Coinbase does this. I hope they do. Now, if there's an angle of this I'm missing, folks, please let me know. But again, if I take this at face value, it just seems to be the whole focus that, again, cryptocurrency is decentralized. Now, I know that might change, or maybe that has already changed, or there is a large proposal out there that cryptocurrencies were created by intelligence communities as a form of a, plan D, if you want to call it, to keep society controlled, thinking that they're not, because they would keep touting the whole decentralized thing, and then having certain heads of the Fed of different countries, SAFE and IMF and Federal Reserve and all that stuff, central bank, and in Europe, and have them say, oh no, we should have our own cryptocurrency. That could just be controlled opposition. It's hard to say at this point. The next thing is that Evergrande, a large Chinese property developer, is set to suspend interest payments to 2 banks and all payments to its wealth management products. And I quote, return my hard-earned money, end quote, chanted employees during a protest outside the company building yesterday. Evergrande has over 123,000 employees. Again, these people, these elites, they may have these little, loopholes and tricks because of the money and connections they have, but they're no smarter than you and me. The way they screw the everyday person is not necessarily always a complex scheme. So the next thing is that Biden says we need to, quote, by 2020 make sure all our electricity is zero emissions, end quote. Yeah, it's 2021, so I'm just going to leave that there. And folks, I'm going to be honest, this is just my opinion now, what I'm going to say. When I turn the TV on, or actually not the TV, when I open up, Twitter or whatever, and I look at some clips of Biden when he does these climate conference roundtables and all that, forget looking asleep. He looks like he just can't mentally keep up. Forget making fun of him. I'm serious. The next thing is that 90 people were vaccinated against COVID with the 3rd dose in a retirement home in Oberhausen, Germany. Of these, 9 had a reaction so severe that they had to be treated. Resuscitation procedures had to be initiated in 2 cases 3 days after vaccination. Local health authorities are reportedly investigating the incident. Now, I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say, look, you see, vaccine equals bad for the sake of YouTube. It's not for me to say, folks. You decide on your own based on what I just said right there, based on what I reported. The next thing is that the Pope claims that climate change is a, quote, cry of the earth, end quote, and an immediate and urgent matter of survival for humanity in a statement released today ahead of the upcoming UN Climate Summit. Yeah? Okay. I'm not, sorry, I don't mean to get all feisty in that sense, but why don't you go to the UN and in your secret meeting with the ones that know about free energy, have them release it. Simple. Oh, but sorry. The Vatican and the Catholic Church's power structure would crumble too, wouldn't it? Again, I'm not trying to say that this Pope is a bad person individually, but he is part of a very evil system, in my opinion. So, again, the next thing is that the CDC has quietly, by the way, downgraded the definition of vaccine from a product that produces immunity to a preparation that stimulates an immune response for protection. Oh, man, my opinion, you motherfuckers. Part of my English. You see what they're doing? You see? Anyways, I can only go so far at this point because of YouTube, but oh yeah, Biden also said tornadoes. They don't call them that anymore. So what do they call them? Anyways, Microsoft is set to launch a personalized newsfeed dubbed Microsoft Start on Windows 11 and mobile devices to provide news from, quote, premium publishers, end quote, handpicked by Microsoft itself. What premium publishers? The ones that have been lying to us for so long? Get the hell out of here, man. What a joke this is. The next thing is that the Biden administration has asked Congress for at least $30 billion in extra funds for disaster relief and for the Afghan refugees, according to Forbes. Sure, take a couple of billion of that and put it towards the people that need money, who are working 2-3 jobs already, who cannot make ends meet in the States, or poverty, or the kids in Africa. Why not? Oh, but no, we can't do it. Yeah, there's always something, right? The next thing is that large crowds gathered at multiple locations, in Brazil for Independence Day celebrations to support the currently embattled president, Jair Bolsonaro, today. Again, from what I have some relatives that are from Brazil. They tell me that it's very, between Lula and Bolsonaro, it's very polarizing. It depends what part of Brazil you're from. Again, I could be wrong. I've never been on the ground there personally, but this is what I've been told. So maybe, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, folks. The next thing is that China welcomes the new Taliban government with open arms. Yeah, of course. Makes perfect sense. I could totally see. The next thing is that the Chinese social media site Weibo has started to suspend accounts for supporting K-pop acts, citing, quote, irrational star-chasing behavior, end quote. Look, I do believe I believe the intention of China and the CCP is not good, but I do believe that any type of obsession over anything in life is not good. You need balance, just like with everything, whether physical, mental, spiritual, you name it, right? The next thing is that Tanzania has secured nearly $600 million from IMF for COVID relief. Tanzania's late president denied the existence of the pandemic, but his successor is stepping up, implementing a vaccination program. Sure, look, difference of opinion. If they were voted in democratically, assuming, then so be it, right? Anyways, the final thing is that if we take a look here, Russia's emergencies minister, Yevgeny Zinichev, has died in an accident during a big Arctic civil defense exercise. He was 55 years old. He was trying to save a cameraman's life. They were on an edge of a cliff, and the cameraman slipped and fell into the water. Zinichev had been emergencies minister since 2018, and for years was reportedly a key member of President Vladimir Putin's security detail, end quote. Now, again, to be honest with you folks, this is, again, it just goes to show you, it's unfortunate about the death. Again, we didn't know the person personally. Maybe if we could debate karma or this or that. But putting that aside, just goes to show you how Putin keeps people he knows and trusts within his immediate vicinity and circled to head the various departments of the Russian Federation. Right, so it's pretty interesting to see. Now, I'm just going to go over a few other headlines. It says there's one here where El Salvador protests erupt against Bitcoin. There was a dip in the cryptocurrency because of the rollout in El Salvador. There were major technological glitches. Again, could that have been an intelligence apparatus or insurgent to show the world, look, Bitcoin doesn't work? From the CIA or MI6, Mossad? Hard to say. Could even be from Russia's intelligence services, right? It says here now, the next thing is that a U.S. court allows shareholders to move against the Boeing board. Investors can file a lawsuit on some claims over the fatal Boeing 737 MAX crashes, including failing to monitor safety issues. They should have a right. Corporations shouldn't be protected or have some form of immunity, and whenever they do get sued, individuals don't go to jail. Maybe a CEO does some house arrest, but he still gets a big payout. Again, it just goes to show you how they protect each other, right? The next thing is that Somalia is on edge as president and the prime minister clash over their intelligence chief. There's a bit of a riff as to who should head the intelligence services in Somalia. Again, those are domestic affairs, corruption or not. In my personal opinion, domestic affairs. Of course, maybe the CIA, I hate that I have to keep bringing this up and sound like a paranoid person, but the CIA might have their people in there trying to influence things one way or the other. We know this because if we look, for example, at what happened in Ukraine, Victoria Nuland's phone call got tapped, and Putin and the Russian intelligence overheard it. She was talking about who she wanted people to have inserted in the Ukrainian government and blah, blah, blah. That shouldn't be anyone's role to say, but again, depending on your political perspective and how you think we should be, the West or Europe should be the big brother of the world or not. The next thing is that the landmark pact to protect Amazon rainforest shows little progress. The Leticia Pact, signed by 7 South American Amazonian nations, was supposed to protect the world's largest rainforest, but it isn't. Okay, look, my personal thing is this, okay? Putting aside climate change and all that stuff, nature's beautiful. Do your best to preserve it. This free energy tech, again, would solve all of this, but, it's not going to happen, at least for the foreseeable future. The next thing is that Sudan summoned Ethiopia's envoy after 29 bodies were found in a river. The bodies were found between July 26th and August 8th on the Sudanese side of the Cited River, says Sudan. Investigation. Who knows what this could have been for? It's unfortunate, but I'm not going to go into murder, extortion, blah, 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 kidnapping, because we don't know yet, right? The next thing is that an Iranian envoy to the IAEA, and I believe that has to do with overseeing nuclear capabilities of various nations, if I'm not mistaken, says that no one can tell Iran to halt its nuclear activities after critical UN nuclear agency report. I don't like the Iranian regime, but I don't blame them per se. And I say this carefully. Who is the U.S. to say what they can and can't do? And people might say, Dave, the UN's better than the US or NATO. It's all heavily US influenced, and we know it. We could see it based on the way they vote, the way things happen. So, I mean, that's why I kind of say that with such a skeptical, in such a skeptical way. But anyways, let's see here. And yeah, that's about it. Basically, we covered everything. So, folks, thank you so much for watching or listening. We'll catch all of you later on for a new public episode. Cheers.